Champaign County Agriculture Today with your host, Dennis Riggs.
Hello and welcome to Champaign County Agriculture Today. I'm your host, Dennis Riggs, and thanks for tuning in as we talk about a very important industry here in East Central Illinois, and that is agriculture. Agriculture is an important industry in our area. It provides lots of jobs, and those jobs, of course, take educated workers. And where do those educated workers come from? Well, that's what our panel is going to talk about today. We have two gentlemen here with us today that are great representatives of great institutions that we have here in East Central Illinois, and that is the University of Illinois and Parkland College. So without further ado, we'll do some introductions. First of all, Dr. Charles Olson is with us. Chuck is the Assistant Dean of Academic Programs for the College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences at the University of Illinois. It's a long title. Is your workday equally as long, Chuck? Give us a little bit of idea what you do and your background, please.
Very good. Many years ago, I grew up on a farm in Knox County, Illinois, near Oneida, graduated from Rova High School. I enrolled in ag education at Illinois State University enrolled in math education at Illinois State University, and after 3 days decided that I didn't want to be a math education, and so switched over to ag education at that point in time, but then subsequently decided to transfer to the University of Illinois, which I did as a junior in agricultural economics. Worked for a while for the Soil Conservation Service and some military, and then decided I really wanted to get into higher education, and so then got a master's in student personnel administration, and then did a PhD in higher education, focusing on topics that would allow me to go back into a College of Agriculture setting, which in 1979 I then joined the staff at the University of Illinois, then College of Agriculture, and have been an assistant dean working in academic programs since that point in time, dealing with student recruitment, scholarship administration, last few years doing some career services leadership as well.
Mm-hmm. So. Very good. Well, we're glad to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Representing Parkland College is Bruce Hendrickson. Bruce has the title of Chair of the Department of Business and Agriculture Industries at Parkland College. Bruce, thanks for coming with us today. Tell us a little bit about your job there at Parkland, and then also about your background.
Sure. My background is also born and raised on a farm. I happened to be north of Springfield. Went to Athens High School, and decided while I was in high school, because like most of the farm kids in that high school, we all took agriculture, and I decided I wanted to teach agriculture at high school level. So I ended up at the University of Illinois, and went through ag ed, and then took a position. My first job was teaching high school agriculture at Paxton, just north of here. I later became PBL. And while I was there, I also worked on my master's at the U of I in vocational technical education. It was called then. And in '75, got an opportunity to go to Parkland to become an instructor there, and enjoyed that opportunity greatly. While there, specialized a lot in agriculture marketing, that type of thing, and in 1985 I actually took a hiatus from Parkland for about 5 years. I was a farm market consulting in the area and enjoyed working with farmers and farm families, but missed teaching. Mm-hmm. So I went back in 1989, got a chance to go back and became not just an instructor but also the program director for agriculture, and then 3 years ago I accepted a position as the chair of the department. This department includes agriculture, but that's really a relatively small part because it also has all the business programs and courses, accounting, hospitality, some other areas as well that are in my department.
Very good. Well, sounds like both of you gentlemen have had the good background and, of course, the current position to answer these questions. I'll start out with you, Chuck. Gosh, I want to be a farmer. Do I really need an education?
I think that is a definitive yes, Dennis. Goodness, farming has changed so much in so many different ways, but today's successful producer in the farm needs to be a jack of all trades and a master of many, all of them, as a matter of fact. And farming is science, and it's so important to understand the technology that we have today to be able to do the things that need to be done on the scale that it needs to be done to be able to continue to get the job done, because there's fewer and fewer people that are doing that. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's good that we have scientific research behind that to allow them to be more efficient in what they're doing, but they have to be able to understand what the case is with that.
Absolutely.
So, right.
Well, Bruce, I'm going to twist that question a little bit over to you.
Sure.
I'm not a farmer. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I want to be a farmer. Mm-hmm. Do I need an education to do it that way?
Absolutely. Okay. And the best place to start would be Parkland College.
There you go.
In reality is, as we think of that type of person, that potential person, Parkland is a good place to start. partly because our ability to offer classes in the evenings and other times that are maybe more convenient for that person who hasn't made that change to that new career, or who needs that smaller classroom size, fewer students in the same room, and that type of personal attention that we can give, maybe a little better than our good friends across town. And in addition to that, as you were asking that question, it occurred to me that over the years, I would also want to answer that question by saying I've had many farmers take my classes over the years, and we still have farmers coming in and taking classes, though there are fewer farmers in our community, because even if they've had a degree from the University of Illinois or other places, they want to keep track. They've understood clearly that they have to keep pace, and just reading a farm magazine isn't enough. And so they desire to take classes from Parkland, and I know the university does a good job of offering some classes off campus as well. And that's the best answer, is the people who are in the business are seeking that education.
You've answered the question about continuing education, which I know both institutions do quite well. Bruce, I want to ask you, agriculture is now a global business. You're not just concerned about your local elevator as far as the market for your crops or where your seed comes from or whatever. What have you seen in ag education as far as the global picture or the worldwide picture of the ag industry?
Well, certainly every good ag instructor, which would probably be every ag instructor, is looking for ways to show students, no matter what their age, more about the application of what they need to know about other parts of the world, the relationships, everything from trade negotiation to just understanding culture. Because as we look at it as an ag educator, I don't know where my students are going to end up being, 5 years from now or 13 years from now or whatever it may be. And so we're trying to make sure and prepare them for those opportunities. That's why we've been doing some things that U of I has been doing for a long time, which is providing opportunities for our students to actually make trips to other cultures and countries. And we've been able to do that for the last 3 or 4 years very successfully. And I've been surprised how the students have positively responded to that, how they find money, sometimes with the help of some scholarships from our good friends in the community, to help them get that extra experience that goes beyond just talking about it in classroom and maybe showing a few pictures. They see the need for that, and it's great to see.
Chuck, I'm going to twist that question a little bit different for you. My son just recently graduated from the College of Aces, and he studied for a semester in England. How has what you teach at the U of I changed, or how do you cooperate with other countries, not only putting our students there, but I understand also several students come from other countries to study here at the University of Illinois. Is that correct?
That's indeed correct, Dennis. For several years, we've probably had about 20 to 25% of our students that have had some sort of an international experience while they were there. But that's kind of shifted in, I would say, the last 5 years or so. Most of the students in the past would have gone to an international school for a semester, actually studied for a semester in another country, another institution. In some cases, taking courses in their major field of study, but mainly they were going for the cultural experience and using, therefore, open electives they had available to get the credits transferred from there. What we've been doing more recently, though, is focusing on, and a lot of students are still doing that, but focusing on shorter term experiences, maybe 10-day, 2-week, 3-week experiences, where and classes are doing this. They will go and study agriculture, oftentimes from a supply chain management sort of thing, in 1 or 2 countries, to understand from another perspective how another country does it, but also usually selecting countries where there are several multinational companies there that our students are well aware of, that they can visit there as part of the trip as well. So we have been doing quite a few things in various European countries and various South American countries. Again, South America has been especially good for the students because they're aware that Brazil and Argentina are major players in the game that we're in. And so doing those sorts of things where we're doing what's called business immersion experiences under the guidance of 1 or 2 of our agribusiness faculty members to really watch the whole thing happen there to see how that compares to what's happening here and get the perspective of the corporations who have major headquarters there on the site.
Well, what an interesting hands-on way for education to be put in a very realistic application. What other, have you seen other changes in your enrollment in the way, in the education the students are looking for, or actually, as you mentioned about the corporations that are looking for trained students coming out, what trends have you seen there over the last few years? Any changes?
Our two largest programs forever and ever have been in animal sciences and in ag and consumer economics. And animal sciences has been there because of students that are interested in animals. We could use a whole lot more students in the plant sciences, but for some reason the plant sciences have never been as sexy as animal sciences have. And so looking for opportunities for the animal sciences students who don't get into veterinary medicine, which is what most of their goal is. But the international arena has given several of these students the opportunity to actually go and experience animals in other countries here, thinking about a broader perspective of what animals are, that creates opportunities for them to do things that open doors for them other than veterinary medicine, if that indeed did not be the case. And many times that is finding animals in other parts of the world that have very definite needs other than what production animals do here. And so going into graduate study to work more with exotic animals, identifying animals that may have some health benefits, that as we do research in how animals can also provide some answers to some health things as well. So animal science students taking their interest in health to look into medical things that may involve animal science research. And so lots and lots of these students are looking at the animal industry to help get answers to other needs that the world has.
Interesting.
From an agribusiness standpoint, many of our students that are not farm background but come into the college in agribusiness management because family members oftentimes are doing something in the food industry. Mm-hmm. And again, we know that the food industry and the food processing industry is one of the largest industries there are. Mm-hmm. And so students that are coming to major in agribusiness to learn what really is unique about an agricultural business industry. And it's been good for them to bring the perspective. I've seen my parents working in the processing industry, but now looking at it, and again, you start with production here as well, for them to have the perspective of the supply chain in this country they may not have had.
The supply chain, the food chain, there are several links in that chain, and where you start or where you end could be an interesting career. Right. Bruce, what about out at Parkland? What have you seen from students that are looking at careers, and maybe there's a young person watching this program today that doesn't quite know what they want to do. What can agriculture offer them as far as multiple paths for their career?
Sure. A lot of similarities, even though, of course, at our level, I'll call it, the students have some of those same kinds of interests at times, and yet at the same time, we have students who come to Parkland who don't have a plan, at least to have a four-year degree, and they know some of those careers and jobs are going to require a bachelor's or higher education. And so that's why we still have a lot of students interested in the two-year education for agriculture, but our growth tends to be more in the area of horticulture, the green industry. They see a lot of opportunities there as more and more people have the wherewithal to be able to hire someone to come in and design, build, and even to maintain their landscape around their house or their business. And certainly in the turf industry, that's a growing area as well. And some have seen opportunities that don't require a bachelor's degree to be able to become the golf course superintendent is one of those things that's growing in some areas, and that's a program, for example, that we're going to be beginning in the next year. Those are some of them. At the same time, referring to what Chuck talked about with the people who like animals, love animals, and we have it's not within my department, but at Parkland we have the first vet tech program in the state of Illinois. It does not prepare the students to go into the College of Vet Medicine, but rather it is a Associate in Applied Science degree, two-year degree, that prepares them to be assistants to veterinarians, and that's become very important to many of the veterinarians in the state of Illinois and other states to have access to people who have that love for animals. And by the way, that's a very difficult program, restricted entry. Not everyone who wants to get into that program can even qualify. So there's an area that is meeting another set of demands by the students as well as the demand by an industry. And then a program that only began about 5 years ago is our diesel technology program, which prepares what some used to call the ag mechanic is no longer an ag mechanic. They are technicians, and as you well know, have learned a lot of the technology that includes computers and on board the tractors and combines and so on, that enables them to meet the needs again of an industry that was finding it very difficult to find qualified people to work within the ag implement business as well as the construction equipment type of business.
All of these different career paths lead us finally to maybe getting a job someday, or at least the parents hope that the students
Yes.
get a job. Chuck, let's turn to you and ask, where do you see the biggest interest from companies or people that hire the graduates of the University of Illinois? Where do you see the biggest demand right now?
Well, I think probably half to two-thirds of our employers are looking at students with business background, and business degrees. And again, they're very much interested in students that have a broad background in their education, but in addition to their coursework, they're even all the more interested in other things that the student has done outside the classroom. It's always been a case of tell us how you spent your spare time sort of thing, but they're very much interested in students who've demonstrated that they already can work with people to achieve a common goal. They're interested in specific leadership experience. They're very definitely interested in real life experiences of having to resolve conflict in the workplace. And so they're going beyond just what's on the student's transcript, but tell us enough about yourself, articulate what you have learned about yourself in the 4 years here, and how that's going to manifest itself in the new workplace, where they're going to be working as an effective member of a team. And the companies really want to make sure that the students have these, what we've always called soft skills, to be able to be just as effective in that, at the same time being a constant learner for the particular technical skills they need to have in that particular job. So it's really, they're screening a whole lot more on who is this person, and what growth have they experienced here in college, what they see as a very good 4-year period of time to do that sort of thing.
We often think of those coming in to hire from the university level are the big corporations. Is that the case, or are there smaller companies that come to the university to hire also?
The ones that come to campus, Dennis, are still pretty much the names that you would recognize, because those are the ones that are actually able to afford to come and do that. But with our online posting job system here, we have, you could look at a listing of the companies that were hired by graduates in the last couple of years. A third of them you would know, and two-thirds you would not. And many of those indeed are small organizations that will use our on-campus screening sources, where they post resumes on the website, and they can sit at home and look at there, and they may come to campus to talk to 2 or 3 of the students there. But indeed, we are small startup companies or organizations who only may need something once every couple, 3 years, come to us as well. But oftentimes we don't see them, but we interact with them online, and they get to know our students that way.
Bruce, let's turn over to Parkland College. What about your experience there getting jobs for your graduates? Is it big companies, little companies? What success rate can you tell me there?
Virtually all of the companies that our students end up working in would be small companies, entrepreneurs, often very small, rather than the large corporations who, for whatever reason, aren't typically going to be looking at us as a source for those employees, which is fine. The other thing that, as Chuck was sharing, it occurred to me that we saw a change in the last 15 years or so at Parkland in our ag program. We used to get many phone calls from employers in the area, typically, whether it be small ag businesses or farmers and other related, looking for employees. We get very few of those calls from agriculture businesses. Now, that sounds really negative. But as I talked to a few of them in the last few years, the reason why many quit calling was because we never had anybody to send them. Because all of our students typically are working at least 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours plus a week anyway in some type of job that they're interested in. Often they're trying to get the education so they'll be better employees and or have the opportunity to advance further within that particular business. And so as a result, what we finally concluded was they quit calling because they weren't getting anybody. And as I've had students who were interested in a particular type of business, and we would call some of those contacts that we still have had over the years, in fact, there are opportunities, And what we even see, and Chuck and I were talking earlier about the USDA does a study every 5 years. And what that study says is there are many opportunities for agriculture jobs in the United States every year. And probably, I think it's about 10 to 15% of those jobs are filled by people without an agriculture degree. Well, that says volumes to us about how, again, despite our efforts to meet that need with agriculture graduates, it's not happening. And so sometimes it's a communication thing about making sure that the people with the jobs know where to find the employees, and sometimes it's the employees finding the employers. But clearly, there's still a need for an expansion in the number of graduates in many areas, not all, but in many areas in agriculture.
Well, that's good news for job seekers out there, and especially for their parents and grandparents that might be watching our program today. So my next question, and I know both of you gentlemen work together and at the high school level as kids coming out of high school. Tell me about what requirements, and Chuck, I'll start with you, as far as a young student that may be just entering high school or into the high school setting, do they need to be thinking ahead if they're planning to come to the University of Illinois in an ag career setting?
It sure helps if they're planning ahead because, yes, we really welcome the opportunity to help shape what a high school program looks like for the students that are planning on coming to the University of Illinois. The stated requirements, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 2 years of foreign language. But we, at the same time, say if you're coming into a field of study here, we would want you to have math all 4 years because you're going to have college math, and so we don't want you blowing off the senior year. If you're going to be in any of the 5 departments that have natural science as a foundation, we want to have more than the basic biology and the basic chemistry. More and more high schools are offering advanced chemistry and advanced biology, and that's just superb preparation then for the rigor that they're going to have at the University of Illinois when they get here. And the high schools are offering quality preparation for that. And so we just, mainly we tell them, don't blow off the senior year. That's not the best way to prepare for your freshman year at the University of Illinois to do that way, but a college prep program.
Bruce, I'm going to ask you, you've had experience teaching at the high school level. Have you seen changes in high school education, and more specifically, maybe high school agriculture classes over the last few years? How has that changed at the high school level?
Well, I think they're doing a lot better job than I did when I taught high school ag. I really believe that. Certainly one of the things that was happening as I left that arena many years ago was I keep coming back to horticulture for good reasons. But many of the ag programs in this area are really agriculture and horticulture, and they are expanding what they do. Several have greenhouses already before we even were able to get one this year. And so they're doing that well. Many of them, of course, are including some of the technology and have for many years. So I think they're doing that. At the same time, one of the difficulties for some of those students who are in high school now, who are thinking about what we're talking about today and looking at an ag career, is trying to balance taking, if they have access to an agriculture program, and taking those courses, and at the same time taking all the things that Chuck has suggested they really need to get, and yet if they can do it all, they really need to, because I'm the first person who will say they need to take 4 years of math. It's unfortunately probably over 50% of our students that start at Parkland are not ready to take a college algebra course in mathematics. About 50% are not ready for English 101, the first level of English, for whatever reason. And so we really try to emphasize students that we talk to in their first years at high school, you really do need to take as much math as possible. You need to take certainly the 4 years of English. You need to go ahead and be sure you do take the science courses, because in many of the courses that we offer, obviously with crop science and animal science, that's necessary background. So a lot of the things we would say would be the same, and I know Chuck's a great supporter of high school ag programs, so if there's any way they can also take high school ag, he would want them to do that as well.
Bruce, are you seeing any partnerships that are being formed, either maybe even starting at the high school level and definitely at Parkland, between corporations or maybe even industries or policy organizations? Anybody's looking for specific people to come out of your institution? What can you tell me about that?
We've actually tried to work with that type of program over the years. I know there's some places in other industries where they've been doing that directly with the high school. I understand that Caterpillar, for example, has been doing that with certainly with community college, but also even down at the high school level, identifying students as juniors and seniors and starting to work with them to develop them as employees. It's been more difficult, frankly, in the ag industry. We do a lot of other things. We do dual credit courses, meaning the student can actually get credit for a course they take at Parkland, but they also count it at that high school if the high school agrees to do that. That's one of the partnerships that's relatively new, that's been successful. But other than that, in terms of working directly with any businesses, that's been more difficult for us to do.
Chuck, let's go to the university. I know there's a lot of work that's done being a research institution that the university is. Tell me about some of the interesting partnerships that are going on at the University of Illinois right now.
Well, sort of, I think the primary partnerships would be in the research area, and I really don't get involved in that very much, but I know that one of the big challenges in in ag education at the university level is continued funding to do the things we need to do. And so consequently, as you may be aware, on the southwest corner of the College of ACES campus right now, by the Assembly Hall anyway, is a new research park. And so increasing numbers of companies are getting space in there to be involved in joint venture activities on campus here. And so as a result of bringing in money through that, it does create increased research opportunities for the faculty members, which create increased part-time job opportunities for the undergraduate students. And about 40 to 50% of our undergraduate students, when they complete their undergrad degree, about almost half in some departments, the first thing they do after they graduate is stay in school and immediately continue on to get a graduate degree. And a lot of that is because during their undergraduate years, they've been exposed to what research is, part-time job working in the lab, surrounded by graduate students and faculty members doing research, oftentimes with a linkage to a company, so they're seeing the benefit as well. And so it's really a no-brainer for them to say, I'm going to continue on and get at least the master's degree right now. And then many of those master's students would then perhaps go working in a research lab at the corporations as well, because they've been exposed to what the difference is in corporate research labs compared to academia.
One of the exciting points for a student seeking an institution to go to is the facility itself. I know Parkland's building some facilities out there, but of course U of I is really heading out to the South Farms and expanding to the south. Just real quickly, give us just a very quick executive summary of what's going on out there to the south.
At the current time, the only thing that's moved to the south is the beef and sheep facility. Quite frankly, the project is pretty much on hold right now just because of the lack of the incredible dollars that it's going to take to make the move. The good news is we still have the property that lots of other entities want to have, and so therefore we've got lots of people interested in trying to help us come up with the money that's necessary to continue the master plan, and there clearly is a master plan for that to occur. In addition to that, though, a new facility is going to be opening up just this next year, the Integrative Genomics Biology building, which is on the former Bevere Hall parking lot. And this is an interdisciplinary research facility. 7 of the colleges on the University of Illinois campus went together to sponsor that. We're integrative genetic biology, meaning now that the genomes, we pretty much know what they are now, faculty members coming together and working on collaborative research to help solve problems that different disciplines have interest in. And so that's housed basically on our campus, and one of our animal science faculty is a new director of that building facility, and it's going to create incredible opportunities for expanded research because we now understand what the human genome, animal genome is, and going to create research opportunities for our students to be involved in as well.
So the only constant thing is change.
Exactly.
At both University of Illinois, and I know Parkland's got a new greenhouse out there that are building. It's fantastic. I had a chance to see that the other day.
Great.
So gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today and talk about the bright future that ag careers have, whether you're from a farm or not. There's an area you can be excited about. And folks, we want to thank you for listening. We encourage you to get a hold of either one of these institutions to find out more about agriculture careers. And we thank you for watching. Tune in next time for another edition of Champaign County Agriculture Today. I'm your host, Dennis Riggs.
Champaign County Agriculture Today is brought to you by Champaign County Farm Bureau.